get rich slow, 100%. It's debt pay down. That's what it's about. Take your time, let the other people pay off that mortgage every month. Because I'm going to tell you, dude, and I've got kids now, so it's a whole different perspective for me. You blink your eye and 10 years goes by, but be realistic. You got to be realistic. Just be patient, and good things are going to happen.
Welcome back to the STR Intel podcast. I'm your host, Philip Wilburn, and today's special guest is Mr. Luke Carl, aka Cash Flow Carl. How's it going, Luke?
Going great, man. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I love talking about rental real estate and all things short-term rental.
I had another nickname for you, but you shaved your stash. I was going to call you.
What was it?
STR Classy Stash, but
nice.
You shaved
stash.
You had like a Fu Manchu, didn't you, for a while?
Yeah. That usually comes and goes, like wintertime.
Wintertime, yeah, keeps you warm.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, hey, thanks for coming on. So for our listeners, Luke has his own podcast, the Short Term Rental Management Show on the Short Term Shop. Is that right?
Yeah. Short Term Shop. We've got a few different shows, and my show is Short Term Rental Management. And we just cover all aspects of managing vacation homes, and very similar to what you guys do. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I heard a lot of your content, and you've got a ton of stuff. So we'll link that and plug that in here at some point in the podcast. And then is it your wife, Avery, that started the shop, short-term rental shop, or was that just collaborative effort?
Yeah. I mean, I was definitely there when that happened. So the short-term shop is a team of real estate agents, and my wife is a big real estate agent. And we started years ago, back in kind of the early days of all this crazy Airbnb thing, and she we were living in East Tennessee, so obviously a pretty big vacation rental market there in the Smokies, and it just took off, and we worked really hard and built the company up, and now we're in about 20 different markets, and the company's 70 to 100 employees, depending on who's an employee and who's not, I guess. But and then so my role in the organization is teaching classes to clients. So basically, she, her side, they sell the houses. Just real estate agents is really what it is. And then if they want to, they can come take a class with me on basically how to manage the property. And it just kind of evolved from back in the day. We had our own rentals and long-term rentals as well. And she was getting more popular as a real estate agent, and her clients had all sorts of questions, and so she would just kind of send them to me once they were ready to kind of get it up and running. And most of the folks that are coming to us do want to self-manage. Of course, sometimes they'll end up putting it with a manager, and that's cool too. But yeah, that's just kind of how the whole thing was born. We started, I guess, probably in about 2015, give or take.
Okay. So Airbnb was kind of pretty new back then. Were they still just doing shared spaces at that point? Or they just,
it was unheard of. Excellent question. It was really what we were, and still to this day, my first Airbnb in the Smokies is the longest running. I've been on an Airbnb in the Smokies longer than anybody. There was like 2 or 3 people really on Airbnb before. Well, as far as self-managers, of course, none of the property managers, even today, were using it. As I'm sure there's a huge gap with good property managers in this space. There's like 2 or 3 that I found that were really doing it with their own properties. One guy had like 30 or so of his own. And there was one lady that she had 3 or 4. And that was it pretty much. Of course, VRBO been around way longer. VRBO's been around since like 1999, right. I think. And
yeah, like primarily your beach destination vacation markets for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's something I don't think people really realize is VRBO, and this type of vacation rental has been around a long time, but it seems like it just became much more prevalent with Airbnb and the advent of that technology, and kind of urbanized it a little bit. But interesting. So you started in kind of the long-term space, real estate investment, and then you started getting into short-term rentals with your wife and the brokerage. Okay, interesting. What was kind of the reasoning for getting into vacation rentals or short-term rentals?
Man, market. At the time we were living in Nashville, and we bought our first rental there. And it was quite frankly getting too expensive very quickly. And it was like overnight that the rental we had, we paid, we were paid in the hundreds for it. And then like overnight it was worth $250. And then next thing you know, it was worth $350. And we couldn't duplicate that system. Basically, we were dead in the water at one rental. And all the while we were trying to save up down payments and things like that, in the early days when we were first starting out. And just really, quite frankly, the next town we could go to, the next closest town that we could make some money in rental real estate was the Smokies, Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg. And that was really kind of, what did it for us. It was just a matter of finding a market where we could get some real estate that would make a couple of bucks. And that happened to be in our backyard. And of course, Avery, my wife I'm from the Midwest, but she grew up in the South. Mm-hmm. And so she'd been going there her whole life and was very familiar with the area too.
Yeah. I'm actually from East Tennessee. So that's Dollywood and the Smokies. That's where I grew up going on vacation.
Oh, cool.
Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. So you got in, you said 2015 into the kind of Gatlinburg in that area.
Yep. That was first, 3 cabins were in 2015.
Probably great timing now. I know that area has kind of exploded.
As far as at the time, rentals. It was like nobody was buying. It was like a weird, no man's land. It was all it was rental cabins, as you know. But everybody was using property managers, and then of course, over time, Airbnb thing kind of hit hard, and then COVID, and man, it just it was a good time. It was right time, right place.
Gotcha. Okay. Are you managing any other properties, any other locations currently?
Yes, I do have short terms on the beach in Florida, a couple of different markets in the Florida Panhandle, Destin area, and then I've got the cabins. I've got the 8 short terms, and then I've got hundreds of long terms at this point, multifamily, et cetera. Once you get up into that multifamily, the number of doors goes up pretty quick, you know. But I don't manage those anymore. When I first started, I did. When I first started back in the day, quite frankly, I don't even know that I could afford a property manager. And so I was doing it myself with a day job and really just, working extremely hard. And today, no, I have third-party management on all my long terms.
Gotcha. Okay.
Somewhere around 250 units.
Okay. Long terms, and same with short terms, or you're managing those remotely?
I do those in-house. Yep.
Gotcha.
So I've got, a team of 3 people, with me and 2 other people that handle, guest communications and reviews and things like that.
All that fun stuff. When you said you were kind of getting down and dirty, were you like doing maintenance, doing cleaning, doing all the evictions, all that kind of stuff from the beginning with your long terms?
Oh, 100%, man. I did it all. A lot of it now, I look back, I'm like, man, why did I do all that? But I'm so glad I did. And that's just the way I was raised, come from a hardworking Midwestern family and, kind of blue collar. And we did everything ourselves. My dad, he's still, he was in town recently, and he just, he's salt of the earth. And so I cut my teeth on learning all that stuff, how to do an eviction, how to deal with, bed bugs in a long-term rental, and getting hit with a tornado at 1:00 in the morning, and all these crazy stories over the years. And looking back on it, man, it was the greatest thing ever, because I learned my craft. I learned every detail about this business, and looked at it like a career. Like I need to know every tiny aspect of this gig so that I can be the best on the planet. And that's kind of how I approached it.
Do you feel like that kind of prepped you for vacation rentals in a way, doing the long terms?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that I'm a better host because I have long terms. and I have that self-management experience. That being said, it's not for everybody.
Right.
Great question. Because I would say that at least in my day-to-day life with the short-term shop and whatever else, the folks that come to me or ask me questions or whatever the case may be, they don't want anything to do with long-term rental. It doesn't work in their brain. And I get that, it's $200 a month if you're lucky,
Right.
50 grand to make $200 a month or whatever it may be. But yeah, I feel like I've learned a lot from how to deal with managing short terms from managing long terms. There's a lot of things in there that are fairly similar, and also it made me get to the point where I can handle basically anything. I mean, once you've been to eviction court, once you've had fires and terrible situations like that, all the stuff that, like, as a new investor, just you freak out about, it just rolls right off your shoulder. You're like, oh man, this is kid stuff,
Right.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for all the experience.
Gotcha. Okay. What's kind of you and your wife's goal with this, with your own vacation rentals, with your own short-term rentals, or with your own long-term rentals? What's kind of your end goal?
Excellent question. Changes all the time. Right now, we've kind of gotten to where we wanted to be, quite frankly. We've hit some goals at some young ages that, well, at least she's young, that we're very proud of. And we've got 2 kids. So the kids are number one all the time. They're young. They're very young. My son's about to turn 3. Definitely focusing all of our attention as much as we can on them at this point. But we've got this big brokerage, the short-term shop is a huge company.
Mm-hmm.
And we're very proud of that. And we've got a lot of agents working for us, and we want to make sure that they're happy and making a good living. And the clients, of course, clients are always number one. We want to make sure that these folks are having a good experience when they come to buy a house. And that everybody is, we like to give, man, give. So that's kind of where we're at now. Now, be honest with you, man, I would love to scoop up another apartment building.
Yeah.
Right now, I don't know that if it's exactly the right time to be doing that. And at some point, I probably would be totally cool with another vacation home. Doing it the way I do it with the self-management thing. There is a threshold there.
Right.
You're probably not going to end up with like 25 of your own vacation rentals and doing it the way I do it. But 7 or 8 or 10 is a decent number. You could probably even still have a day job and do it that way, as long as you've got somebody helping you out, a couple of people helping you out. So I think maybe I could throw one more on the fire. Like, we don't have anything in the ski market right now. And
Right.
My kid, like where you're at, my kid, we're actually coming to Steamboat this winter. And my kids like, my daughter's 5 and she likes to ski. So I could see myself going that route.
Yeah. I'm in the Colorado Springs area. Have you been out here before? To Colorado
I don't think I've
Springs?
ever been to Colorado Springs proper. No.
Probably flown through Denver, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. We were actually in Pagosa Springs this past summer, but that's pretty far away, but same state.
Yeah. It's like 3.5 hours south of here, something like that. Okay. Gotcha. So for your vacation rental masterclass, what's kind of the concept there? What exactly are you teaching people? Are these people brand new to investing, brand new to vacation rentals? What's kind of the core teaching philosophy behind that course?
Yeah. Which is free, by the way. You come to the short-term shop and we teach all of our clients if they want to come. We're happy to help them out and basically just teach them everything I know and been through. But yeah, it's mostly noobs, and it's just everything you need to get up and running from A to Z. Like, we go broad overview of different management softwares and things like that. And none of this stuff is a secret at this point in time. You know what I mean? It's all out there. But I just enjoy giving back and telling my stories and helping folks because, man, I was that guy. I was scared to death. Like, oh my goodness, I got strangers sleeping in my house. They're probably doing it on my mattresses, that kind of crap.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just like to give.
Yeah. I started out just a 5-bedroom house, renting out each room. And yeah, it was like 1-2 night stays, people just showing up. It was pretty hectic, pretty crazy. And I think eventually I just switched to travel nurses. Because it was just too crazy, people coming in and out, and kind of hard to maintain, especially working another job. So switched to travel nurses, and then started kind of managing individual rooms, shared room spaces. Even that was kind of crazy. So eventually just residential vacation rentals was what that led to. So now we're managing about 200 rentals in Colorado Springs. We just expanded to Arizona about a year ago, so we're growing that market out, setting up operations, getting that rolling. But it's a ton of fun, but it's always challenging, especially when you're dealing with. I would say when we first started about 7 years ago, there wasn't a lot of content or material I could find anywhere. There was no books or YouTube, podcasts, nothing. I couldn't really. I think it was kind of even hard finding like a PMS system at that point. I think we started with LiveRes. I don't know if you've heard of them. I don't even know if they're still around. But yeah, I started with LiveRes and was with them for maybe a little bit less than a year. And it was a terrible system. The integrations didn't work, double bookings, none of the platforms, synced with one another. The financial payment system didn't work. So ended up switching over to Guesty and been with them since 2018 and pretty happy with them. They're the expensive one, but works pretty well.
Guesty Pro? You're using the Guesty Pro, not the Guesty for Host?
No. Yeah, I think that just came out, a year, 2 years ago? It's fairly new, I think.
Yeah, they bought it. It was Your Porter previously, and they basically bought Your Porter and changed the name. Guesty Pro seems to be pretty robust, pretty awesome software. You like it?
Yeah, again, you get what you pay for. It's probably one of the most expensive PMSs I've seen out there, but I'm definitely happy with it. And they've got tons of funding, so they're constantly developing new tools. It's like every time I log in, there's a new tool popping up. So yeah, I like it quite a bit. Today we're at this cool house in southern Colorado Springs, probably about a little less than 10 minutes from downtown, about 10 minutes from Garden of the Gods. It's a 4-bedroom, 3-bath. It's got mountain views from every single room. It's got a rooftop balcony with a fire pit. It's even got an elevator in it. Beautiful house, recently updated, kind of a contemporary townhome. I think was built in 2020. So all the appliances and amenities, beds, everything's brand new. I did want to ask you as far as how you're managing kind of your STRs. Are you doing multi-channel distribution? Are you just a Airbnb guy? Or are you on, a plethora of channels? How are you kind of doing that?
Yeah, I would say I'm pretty close to 50-50 Airbnb, VRBO. I do dabble in Booking.com occasionally, and then I get annoyed with them and end up turning it off because it's
the payment process or the credit card fraud?
Yeah, it's such a pain. It's terrible, really. Apparently it's much better overseas, but man, I don't like it. It doesn't really do anything that I needed to do. And I do have a website. I don't focus much energy on that, to be honest. I've got a fairly large portfolio that I've got to deal with, with the long terms and everything. So if I only had, maybe 10, 15, 20 properties, something like that, I think I would be definitely pushing more folks or trying to my own website. But the way I look at it today is kind of like, it would really be like, for just to put it in perspective, like LukesVacationHouses.com versus VRBO.com. And I can't compete, so I'm happy giving them their cut. I feel, they're putting millions and millions of dollars into marketing and things.
Yeah, you can't compete with Airbnb or VRBO's marketing. Yeah, you just
not
can't.
possible. I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to. So right. Yeah, I'm Airbnb and VRBO, and I do sit pretty damn close to 50-50.
Yeah, gotcha. I'd say we've been probably until this year, maybe 70-80% Airbnb across the board until really this year. And it's kind of shifted. It's almost at kind of 50-50, but we're also on a lot of other platforms. Booking.com, we've been, on and off them for years. Like you said, the credit card fraud was crazy. It was like 50% of our bookings were credit card fraud. So we've been off it, but they actually just got an internal processor, I think the beginning of this year, and I've had zero issues. But like you said, the way it's set up, it's kind of like they designed it for hotels, so it is a little different than setting up just a standard residential vacation rental on the actual platform. But yeah, I'd say that part has been fixed. And I know Booking.com has increased their spending and their advertising spending in the space quite dramatically. I think they're outdoing Airbnb by like 7 times the amount of their ad spend. So I'm expecting to see a lot more bookings from that side of things. But there's so many of those platforms out there. You've got Hopper just came on the scene. You've got home to go. I mean, there's.
What do you know about Hopper? By the way, have you dabbled in it yet, or?
I just probably like 2 weeks ago started adding my listings to Hopper. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I think we've already got a couple bookings, but I don't know enough yet of how it's going to perform.
Is it cool? Is it similar to Airbnb?
I mean, it's a little different. I mean, again, I'm pretty unfamiliar with it. I'm still learning it. So, and that's kind of the challenge, right? You can go just Airbnb or VRBO, or you can expand your market, but it comes with kind of that's a double-edged sword. Now you got to manage each one of these platforms, and they all have, their individual changes that happen on the listing level, on the platform level that you have to keep up with. So, yeah, it's like, it doesn't come without its challenges. And I think that's really why our Airbnb platform performs so well, is because that's where we're putting all of our efforts into optimizing, our listings, how it's designed, looking at Airbnb's algorithms and what exactly they're, how they're listing different listings and where they're listing them. And each individual platform has its own kind of algorithm and system you have to set up for. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see about Hopper. I'm not that familiar with it. We just, maybe 2 weeks ago, but I'll let you know. But yeah, there's Agoda. There's so many of them. But again, is it worth your time? And there's also the argument to be made of if Airbnb or VRBO are reading your calendar is unavailable because it's got other bookings on other platforms, then does that hurt it in the algorithm? I don't know. I guess time will tell. We'll see. Overall listing performance is what it's all about. So if I can get more bookings at higher rates, I don't care where they come from. So,
right. It's chicken and egg, though. You're absolutely right, because if your calendar's full, Airbnb has got no reason to push anything to you.
Yeah. Right. Okay, cool. So I heard on one of your podcasts, Get Rich Slow, and I kind of want to dive into that, or kind of understand what you mean by get rich slow when it comes to specifically like vacation rentals. And I guess you in general, or just people investing in vacation rentals, what is your kind of philosophy on that?
There's so many folks that think, well, here's what they do. They sit at work, they're at work and they hate their job, and everybody hates their job. Let's be real. And they Google, how do I quit my job?
Passive income, cash flow. Income. Yeah.
And real estate comes up, and I'm not saying I wasn't guilty of it. I never really thought of it that way. First of all, I loved my day job. So that was a different vibe for me. But, I mean, you got to do the math. If you're making $100,000 a year, let's say it's 10% cash on cash return, you need what? $1 million to invest cash. And then you need $5 million worth of borrowing power, $4 million. You got to have the $5 million in real estate. And if you've got $1 million cash laying around, then yeah, you can go out and make a better life for yourself. That's the cold, hard truth.
Right.
So now is real estate still the greatest thing on the planet? Absolutely. Times 10. It's the benefits in real estate outweigh anything else on the planet. Right. And I think we can agree there, so, but it's just, there's too many people I feel that just gets like sucked in quickly and shot out of a cannon. And I can't wait to get 4 doors and quit my job. And I'm just like, what kind of job are you working?
Yeah.
That you can quit after 4 doors? Because if you have one water heater go out, there goes your whole year, right. Your whole month, at least your whole month, so, get rich slow, 100%, it's debt pay down. That's what it's about. Take your time, let the other people pay off that mortgage every month. Cause I'm going to tell you, dude, and I've got kids now, so it's a whole different perspective for me. You blink your eye and 10 years goes by, and if you've got a 30-year mortgage and 10 years goes by and you start looking at your numbers and you're like, wait a minute, this is looking pretty cool. You know, I got some equity. Not only is the market, you know, obviously things are going to go up over time. And then you got the debt pay down going in the background, and you can use that interest to offset, you know, your on your taxes, et cetera. But yeah, to me, it's just so many people that get like super fired up, and you should get super fired up. I'm all about that. I'm all about it, man. Cardone, 10X all day, you know. But be realistic. You got to be realistic. Just be patient, and good things are going to happen.
Gotcha. Great. Yeah. Great point. Yeah, I mean, I even have some clients that have been with me for years, and they bought houses back in, you know, the 80s, and they bought them at the time for nothing, and they've had them for, you know, 30, 40 years, and they're paid off, and now they're short-term rentals, and they're just cash flowing. But yeah, again, that took 30, 40 years to do that.
And probably back then it wasn't, you know, it was like a huge deal. Even though we look back and we were like, oh my goodness, you bought this house in Colorado Springs for how much? And now you look back and it's like, what, you know, but back then it was, whoa, oh my goodness, this is like a yacht, you know?
Right, yeah. Yeah. I think he started with those long-term and he shifted them to short-term because it just made more sense. So as far as, you know, how you're currently managing your homes, so you're using like a PMS system currently?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I use your, what do I use? Hospitable,
okay.
Which is quite frankly, like the easiest one out there. It's very simple, nothing to it. But yeah, for me, I like simple and easy. I've used a lot of them. I've used Your Porter. I've used, back in the day, I used IGMS. Dabbled in OwnerEds for a while. And Guesty for host, which of course is the exact same thing as Your Porter. But yeah, I've been with Hospitable for probably at least 2 years.
Okay. And then are you managing like logistics, operations, cleaning, maintenance, those type of things?
Yeah, I've got 2 full-timers that you know, we have like an office phone where, you know, it's basically a property management company, but obviously on a smaller scale. And that's the way I built it out. You know, we have got policies and procedures and best practices and things like that. And we've got all sorts of different rating scales on our guests as far as reviews and things like that, and the systems for the reviews. I would say that I could go away for 2 months and not even be missed at all, but I'm pretty involved. Like, I mean, I still know, especially on a weekday, you know, on a day, you know, I'm in my office. I'm working I am not that podcast real estate investor guy that's like going golfing 6 times a week or,
right.
You know, I'm in my office working my ass off because it's what I'm supposed to do. And it's the way I was raised, you know? So I do stay plugged in. I even know, you know, occasionally I can, you know, I have my 2 employees on the company on Slack or text message or whatever. Or sometimes even on Zoom, like all day. And I'll be like, man, I can't believe that Jamie over there at this house did that crazy thing. And we're going to get a 4-star over there for Frank, you know? And so I'm pretty plugged in. But if I needed to disappear for a while, I could do that for sure.
Nice. That's a great place to be in. Do you have a crazy guest story? Like an experience? I'm sure you got plenty, and definitely on the tenant side, I'm sure you got a lot. But from a vacation rental perspective, do you have any kind of crazy guest stories where you had a guest, you know, trash the place or do something crazy?
Man, I'll be honest, knock on wood, thousands and thousands of bookings. I've had, I think, somewhere around 6,000 or 7,000 bookings in my career with just, you know, a small amount of properties. I don't have any super like knock your socks off stories, unfortunately. Just typical craziness.
Yeah.
Just typical.
Your kids partying or something.
Yeah,
or
cleaning
noise.
up puke or whatever. You know, I mean, at this point, I think a lot of it has to do with nothing surprises me anymore. I'm just like, oh, okay, here we go. You know, like, yeah, that's all that. You know, but I mean, I've had. Avery's got a great. It's my wife, which, by the way, she did write a. I'm going to plug her book real quick. Short-term rental, long-term wealth is my wife's book.
Oh, awesome.
Which Bigger Pockets published that book a couple of years ago. But and I think this story is in the book where this guy was like freaking out that the Bears, or this is in the East, you're East Tennessee. He thought that the Bears were going to like break in the windows while they were sleeping, and he was freaking out. And so I was just like, dude, that's an irrational fear. Why would that ever happen? That's not going to happen, But anyway, he left this like 20-page long. You know how the bad reviews are always like a million miles long?
They have to justify their experience, their bad experience.
Let me tell the entire internet why this guy was a jerk.
Right. Yeah.
That was this guy, and so Avery tells that story better than I do. I don't really even remember it at this point, but he was like, this house is horrible. The Bears are going to break in while you're sleeping. And I'm like, dude, you don't need to be in the mountains if you're worried about that, but no, I don't have any. I've had fires. I had a fire. Not that long ago, a guy burned a fence down in the back of the house because they put the grill too close to it. I don't have any super awesome, funny stories. I do have a video of an ex-tenant on a long-term rental that was like clearly intoxicated and had a gun on her hip. And she was like, she'd already been moved out, and she came to the property to like hassle my carpet cleaner, and he took a video of her. I need to share that with you because I'll share it with you on the side because it's absolutely priceless. But no, man, I mean, honestly, I've been lucky and I'm grateful. And because to me, again, this doesn't get talked about enough. And you're going to agree, as a guy that's got 200 units, you're going to agree that the guests are number one for me always. It just doesn't get talked about enough. Everybody's talking about ROI and cash on cash and blah, 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 blah. But I mean, I'm a guy that grew up in a family where we had to spend, they saved up all year, 2 years to go on vacation. And I always put myself back in those shoes and try to remind myself how much this really means to these folks and do my best to, I'm sounding like an ass kiss here, and that's fine. I'm fine with that. I'm kissing my guest's ass a little bit, as much as they annoy the crap out of me, because they do.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's the gig we've chosen here, and we got to make sure they have a good time.
Yeah, they're paying for an experience, and you got to give it to them. And sometimes that's hard to keep that standard, especially if you have a high rotation of guests coming in and out, high traffic, and you've got maintenance items, you've got cleaning issues. You gotta get it ready. And yeah, the next guest that's paying $500, $1,000 a night doesn't care what the previous guest did.
Absolutely.
Hey, I saved up all year. I'm bringing my family. This is our only trip, we're going to take for the year. And yeah, you want it to be a great one. Yeah, you want it to be something they want to come back.
You have any? I want to hear a story.
So when we did it was my brother and I started Hosty, but we did the sweat equity thing. We just started cleaning, doing all the maintenance, pretty much everything, guest messaging, owner messaging. I had one, it was probably within our first 6 months, and it was like our nice flagship property. It had a hot tub with a balcony, mountain views, beautiful property. And at the time, it was like our first really nice house. Everything else had been your basement unit or your master bedroom unit. And I guess the guests had a party. They had broken into the owner's closet. They had like smoked weed in there. They had gone in to the bathroom and smoked cigarettes in there. The house itself was just filthy. But the worst part was they had pooped in the hot tub. And the hot tub at that point had like the water level was low. So the jets were just shooting up this water everywhere. So that was like probably my first really bad experience with guests. Funny enough, reaching out to them, they said it wasn't them, but yep.
Yeah, the neighbors came over and crapped in your hot tub while they were at the grocery store.
Not to mention this hot tub was on a 3rd-story balcony. So yeah, that was probably a pretty bad one. But I've had to go and kick out guests where they're a day past their checkout and have asked them to leave nicely. They're not leaving. And I've had to go ask them to leave. Or I've even had to call the sheriff and have the sheriff remove them. Those type of things where, luckily, that's I'm sure the tricky part about long terms is you can't do that. You have to go through the eviction process. But with short-term rentals, right, they don't have any tenant tenant rights, and you can actually just ask them to leave or have them removed. But I've had to do that before, those type of things. But I did have a pretty big party. It was one of those things where it was, just some college kids posted it on Facebook and Craigslist and basically said, hey, $20 at the door, get you in, keg party thing.
Oh, you did?
Mm-hmm.
Like it was advertised.
It was advertised, and I got a call in the middle of the night, and hey, they're having a party here. People are fist fighting. There's gunshots. And I show up at the house, and there's probably 20, 30 cop cars. There's like over 200 people here. This is a like very small cul-de-sac neighborhood with elderly neighbors. So yeah, the house itself was in fine shape. It was a little dirty, and the floors were a little dirty, but there was gunfights, there was fist fights in the neighbor's yard. So, I had to go to all the neighbors and apologize, and it's a pretty big thing. You lose trust with neighbors, and now there's always this fear of strangers coming into the neighborhood. And that was a good reason. But after that, we just started vetting guests very heavily. So we started using a vetting system. You've probably heard of it, AutoHost.
AutoHost.
So yeah, we just came up with our own vetting protocols. We started using AutoHost, vetting guests. And since then, knock on wood, we haven't had any major parties or anything like that. But
and does that connect directly to Guesty Pro?
It does. It integrates with Guesty Pro. I don't know if
cool.
it does with the host side of things, but. Yep.
And is it easy? Like, what does the guest have to? What's the guest experience like with AutoHost?
So you create it. They have a flag system where they'll rate kind of a guest green, yellow, orange, red flag based on their parameters. But you kind of set the parameters, what platforms you want to check, what checks you actually want to do.
Wait a minute. So it's just pulling their name and using it on social media and things like that, and saying, "Hey, don't rent to this person."
No, it doesn't. It doesn't check social media. I think it'll check their credit card with their address. It'll check their phone. Is it a prepaid phone? It'll check, hey, is this guest booking within whatever parameters, 50 kilometers of this location?
Right.
Like, is this a last minute booking? Is this like, hey, you got one guest booking a 5-6 bedroom, 10 plus guest property, like all these different flags, but you can kind of set them and determine, how far you want to go with those.
And what happens if they've already booked, or how does that work? Does it tell you not to rent to this person before? I mean, because what if they instant book?
All of them are pretty much, all of our listings are instant book. So they'll instant book, and then they're sent to this portal where they just complete and fill out their information. And then basically what we'll do is, if it meets the parameters, it'll auto approve. If it has a certain number of flags, then my team will go in and manually approve it. And that's what determines if they get check-in instructions or not. So if it's, somebody that's a red flag, they don't meet all these parameters, then my team will reach out and say, hey, they're just basically fishing to make sure it's not fishy. Hey, just want to check while you're coming in. What's your stay for? And just checking for things. But sometimes it's like we basically just have to cancel the reservation if there are too many flags on it, which honestly doesn't happen that often. And that's the nice thing. I mean, Airbnb and some of these other systems, they have their own flagging system. They have their own guest vetting software. We just took it a little bit further just because of those types of issues that we were having. But no,
cool.
I'd say it's less than 1% that we're flagging for kind of manual review, and then far less that we're actually saying, hey, no, you can't stay. And the nice thing, it creates a blacklist as well. So if you have, a guest that has stayed, that has had a party or whatever they've done, then it'll automatically flag them when they go to try to book one of your properties.
That's cool. Yeah, I might have to look into that.
It's fairly affordable too. I mean, you can do soft background checks on it. You can do, credit card ID checks. You can do those type of things, but obviously the further you go, the more it's going to cost per vetting reservation. So yeah, it's not bad. Okay. Another question I wanted to ask you is, as far as kind of the industry as a whole, do you do your own kind of revenue management and pricing?
Yes, I do. I personally do all the pricing on my short terms.
Do you mind sharing what software you're using?
Price Labs.
Price. Oh, perfect. That's what I use too. Yeah, I do the same. I do all the pricing on them. In your markets, have you seen kind of compression this year or tail end of last year? Have you seen kind of a decrease in performance overall, or are you kind of performing as usual in your markets?
So I expected one. I thoroughly expected one due to the fact that things went so crazy for about 2 years, and it was like we were just like laughing. You know what I mean? It was crazy. It was like shooting fish in a barrel. But no, I mean across the board, I think I'm probably going to end up a little up. Right now, I'm right about 3% down. June and July were quite a bit down across the board. But August was actually up. August was actually about even, maybe a little bit down. September was up, which is really weird because in my market, September is usually dead.
Everyone's going back to school. No one's traveling.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
But my September looked actually pretty good across the board. I think I was up a few grand in general across the 8 properties. And then October is also shaping up to be, because we're recording this mid-September, so I've got like 6 more weeks. And I think I need like 3 or 4 more bookings to break even from last year. So I think by the end of in December 31st, I think when it's all said and done, I'm probably going to be right about dead even. It's been fairly stressful here and there, though.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of fear on the internet and Facebook groups and things. And I'm just sitting there being like, if you guys are worried about this, you're probably just not really all that great at your job. Because, I mean, all you got to do is be better than the other guy. It's like any other business. So what are you seeing?
So we do some corporate midterm rentals. I saw kind of the tail end of last year, September to maybe March, April timeframe. I saw those fall off a little bit. And some of my 1-2 bedrooms kind of fell off the beginning of this year, but we kind of had a record June and July. August looks good. So I think we'll either be about even with last year or a little up. But most people I've talked to, I've heard, demand is supply is way up and demand is kind of tapered off a little bit. I know we did have issues in, Scottsdale, Phoenix. That's where they had the Super Bowl. Across the board, everyone had higher expectations than it actually booked out at. Everyone was cutting prices, and I think it was just one of those things where, hey, Super Bowl's here, everyone's going to list their house for this period of time. There was just an incredible amount of supply on the market that demand didn't meet. But yeah, overall, like we're probably even if not up by the end of this year, depending on how the rest of this year goes. But yeah, interesting.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was a lot. Might have been something to do to the fact that so many new people got in. It was like all of a sudden. Back when I first started doing this, everybody thought we were nuts. They were like, "What are you talking about? Renting a house overnight with no lease? That doesn't make any sense." And then all of a sudden, it was like the hottest thing on the planet. It was a lot like motorhomes.
Yeah, it did. I think it was Airbnb kind of made it sexy, right? They made vacation rentals kind of sexy and just appealed to a lot of people. But yeah, I remember when I first started, people were like, "What, vacation rental management? What is that? What are you talking about?" It's like, yeah, people come and stay here. They travel here. There's a and
it is sexy. And rental real estate in general is not sexy. Nobody cares about your $1,500 a month long-term rental. Nobody. Right. You can't even talk about that at the Thanksgiving dinner table with your family because they're not going to care. They're going to look at you like you're crazy, and you're going to like lose your money because the tenant, broke the dishwasher or whatever. But with the short term, especially if it's in a vacation town, it's super sexy, and you can put that on your TikTok, and people are like, I don't want to do that because then you get people that want to come stay for free, But,
you're talking about the influencers coming in and saying,
no, not even that. I'm talking about my friends. Yeah. Like, yeah. Oh, you got a house on the beach? Hey, let me come stay there. Right. Yeah. But yeah, it is definitely sexy, man, for sure.
Okay, cool. Did you have any other questions you wanted to ask me? I know I've been asking you all the questions, but did you have
will you come on my podcast?
Absolutely. Just
okay,
tell me when.
boom.
Let's do it.
Okay, I would love that. What else? Colorado Springs. What do I need to know? Again, I'm getting into the ski town thing. I don't really know a lot about Colorado, even though it is a major vacation market. We'll talk about this on my podcast too, but what do I need to know? Are there regulations, permits, licenses, all that kind of thing?
Yeah, you've got some permitting license here in the city of Colorado Springs. Anything zoned R1 is not eligible. Anything with a 500 feet of another STR is not eligible. But there's pockets around, and there's some cities kind of on the outskirts that don't have any permitting, but there's still the ability to list. I mean, Colorado Springs is so spread out, so it has 3 Air Force bases, including the Air Force Academy. It's got the Olympic Training Center. It's got Guard and the Gods. It's got a large Army base. So you see, the nice part about this market is, regardless of kind of the vacation travelers, you have a consistent amount of industry travel with the bases and all the contract companies that are attached to here. Space Command just got assigned to here as well. So you've got thousands of people traveling in and out of here year round with the government. So that's kind of a nice filler and patter even in the slow season. But some hiking attractions. There's no skiing around here. It's probably about 2.5 hours. Breckenridge, Keystone, you got all those areas just about 2.5 hours away. But yeah, all your hiking, mountain attractions. You got a Pikes Peak right in the background. Pretty much anywhere in the city you go. Yeah, but it's a great town.
How'd you end up there?
Military. I was Air Force.
Oh.
Air Force, and yeah, I kind of fell in love with the place, and then started a business, and now it's my baby, and yeah, I don't want to leave it.
I grew up one state over. I grew up in Nebraska, which is it's a state that it touches your state, but it's probably so heard of before because it's fairly. But anyway,
you got farming, you got cornfields, right?
That's it.
That's
and
it.
Used to be when I was a kid, we had really fantastic football, but that doesn't exist anymore. Now you guys have that, but how do you get used to the cold? Coming from East Tennessee and being in Colorado Springs, I think I would get sick of the cold. How do you deal with that?
Honestly, it's not bad. So Colorado Springs itself and most of like Denver area, it's at 7,000 feet elevation, but 300 average days of sunshine a year. So it'll snow, but it's not like Michigan where it stays on the ground all winter. We got free snow removal. The sun comes out and good to go. So I'll be in t-shirts like this sometimes in the winter. It's really not bad.
Okay, cool. Good answer. Because I dig the snow. We live in Florida.
Yeah.
And so it never gets cold here, and sometimes I miss it. I like to get like a nice little, well, we're coming your way. We're going, we're a steamboat, like I said.
Yeah.
This winter, probably February, get a little snow for the kids and feel the cold, and then back to Florida.
Oh, that'll be fun. Yeah, Steamboat's a great town. It's 4 hours north. It's it's North Colorado. We're like kind of central, but yeah, Steamboat's a great place.
Cool.
Last couple of questions for you. Do you have any? Well, you can plug your wife's book as well again, but do you have any book recommendations?
Yeah. Huge reader. Right now I'm reading, I'll give you the one I'm reading right now. Let's see. Let me pull up my Audible. I'm an Audible. I'm glad you asked. So right now, and I stole this recommendation from Brandon Turner from formerly Bigger Pockets. Now he's got his own podcast, of course, called A Better Life. And Die with Zero. I'm almost finished with Die with Zero, which is awesome.
Okay.
It's about basically making sure that you live the life you want to live instead of giving all your stuff to people after you die. You can't see what happened to it.
Right.
I recently read a book called Abundance, which was Deepak Chopra's latest book. A lot of yoga in there, obviously, for being being from Deepak Chopra, but the book itself was really good. I like that. What else do I have? Oh, Molecule of More was really good. And then what was another one I read recently? After that, everything gets blended in because they're no longer they're like not downloaded anymore.
Right.
But But that one, Die with Nothing, dude, definitely check that one. Or
Okay.
Die with Zero, fantastic.
Die with Zero. Okay,
Die
I'll
with
check
Zero.
that out. Perfect. Okay, awesome. And then last question I have for you is where can people reach you? Where can people find some of your content?
Yeah, we have a YouTube channel, the Short Term Shop on YouTube. We're everywhere. I don't have any personally much social media, but the company does, and I'm on a bunch of it. And of course, my podcast, Short Term Rental Management. Love to have you over there. And by the way, make sure you give this podcast 5 stars while you're at it, because this stuff is not easy, man. It takes a lot of time and effort to put this stuff together. And it's much deserved. So, and again, we're in a 5-star business. We need those reviews. So, but on management, wherever you listen to podcasts, I'm on there every Tuesday.
Perfect. Thank you, Luke. Well, hey, thanks for coming on the show. And yeah, let me know. I'm happy to come on whenever we can get it scheduled out. For the short-term rental shop. So they go to YouTube, go to short-term rental shop, and then they go to short-term management by you, right? That's how they.
Yeah, we've got a few different podcasts on our we have like a podcast channel, which is Short-Term Shows, and my wife's got the Short-Term Show, and she got the good name, but yeah, Short-Term Shop, the short-term.com is where you can basically find all the.
Perfect, and we'll make sure to link all that in the actual YouTube video. We'll get all that in there. So. Perfect. Well, thanks for coming on the show. Yeah, it's great talking to you, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.